She's not because I like told her. Okay. I told her that she was emailed me.
Oh, okay.
She emailed me and then I called her. And I was like, she asked me if we could use the thing up. It's like, that's a really long meeting.
Yeah.
She was like, never mind. Can you put me in the agenda?
Next one?
Yeah, for June 10th.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Do budget
Check mic 1, 2.
We're just waiting for the
Check
microphone.
2.
Yeah. Seated. Justin, could you help Kevin? Could you help Kevin?
This will be for whoever's that's the director.
So, and then there's a resolution.
Yeah, we're going to start the meeting. We're going to take the roll. I'm going to read the resolution and then we'll turn it over to you all. Medford City Council, 10th regular meeting, May 27th, 2025 is called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan. I see Council
Present.
Callahan. Vice
Present.
President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming. Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Present, 7 present, none absent. Please rise to salute the flag. Announcements, accolades, remembrances, reports, and records. 25089 offered by Councilor Sang. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council congratulate the Medford High School Orchestra and the Medford Middle School String Ensemble on winning gold medals at the prestigious Massachusetts Instrumental and Chorus Conductors Association Concert Festival. Be it further resolved that the Medford City Council offer commendations to the Medford High School Orchestra and invite them to perform at this meeting. Be it further resolved that the Medford City Council invite the public to the school committee's June 9th meeting where the Medford Middle School String Ensemble will perform and receive commendations. Councilor Sang.
Thank you, President Bears. I'll be very brief, briefer than I was planning on, because our students have been waiting for a while to perform for us, and their music will speak for itself. But art is such a vital part of who we are as a Medford community. It was a vital part of my childhood growing up, and being part of the high school orchestra was a foundational memory of my high school experience. I know that these kids have worked so hard and they deserve this gold medal so much. And I'm just so happy that we're able to hear from them today. Before I turn it over to them, I should also note that the school committee will be honoring the middle school string ensemble at their June 9th meeting as well. So they'll get their commendations there. With all that being said, I'll hand it over to the orchestra.
Thank you, Medford Council, for arranging this event to recognize our students' hard work and achievement. I'm just very proud of the achievement. I felt very connected to my students. And thank you all, administrators, and especially parents for your support, for your continued unwavering support. I'm greatly grateful. So they will perform a selection from their MICA program, Without Conductor, finale from St. Paul's Suite. Enjoy it. Ask them how they stay together. They listen with their eyes and they watch with their ears. Thank you. It's very enjoyable to work with the students. And thank you. Thank you for your beautiful playing.
All right, thank you so much. We'd love to hear more. I'm going to introduce Counselor Sang up here to read off the student names, and folks can come through. We'll come down here and we'll shake everyone's hand as they come through, and then we'll take a photo with you. But do you have more music first? Is there any more music to be played, or is that the only song? Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. Everyone just looks very ready. Counselor Sang.
Thanks. Thank you, President Bears. We on the City Council have prepared certificates, commendations for you guys. I will read out everyone's names and we'll hand them out to you guys after. But yeah, thank you for that wonderful playing. I know all of us are very moved here on the City Council when we get the honor of having you here. So from violin 1 in our high school string orchestra, we have Lincoln Bell, Justin Cho, Maggie Fowler, Samuel Keith, Mary Schmidt. In violin 2, we have Nikki Chow, Saffron Jacobs, Eliana Lamb, Kyle Tam, Vasti Ramirez Alvarez, Jaden Ville. In viola, we have Mai Hughes, Leanne Lamb, William Malone, and Kiana Tran. And in cello, we have the Maya Aman, Owen Barzak Kroll, Kira Huyn, Wesley Kwang, Karina Lewis, Caleb Strauss, Christina Yoslagi, Jaden Wu. And in double bass, we have Kelvin Lee and August Velowska. Thank you all for your beautiful playing. Thank you all for your hard work for our city, for making us so proud of you. And congratulations on this huge award. Please come up and receive your awards, and we'll get a picture of everyone together too. Yep. Yeah, feel free to fill in the middle space.
Thank you, everyone. Justin? You need these? Oh, you're gonna have to chase it. All right, thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. All right, on the motion of Counselor Sang to approve, seconded by Counselor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan,
Yes.
Vice President Collins, Council Lozaro, Council Lemming, Council Scarpelli. Yes. Council Singh. Yes. President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. The motion of Counselor Lemming to take the paper under suspension, seconded by Counselor Sang. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Hang on. Council Callahan,
Yes.
Vice President Collins, Council Lozaro. Council Lemming. Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. So we'll take 25092 and 25039. 25092 offered under suspension by Council Lemming. Resolution for the city of Medford to commemorate those who gave their lives in service to their country this Memorial Day. Whereas Medford is home to many veterans and as well as their families and descendants who dutifully served their country throughout its history. Whereas Medford is honored to be the final resting place of many men and women who gave their lives in military conflicts, including the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Desert Storm, and Operation Enduring Freedom. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council commemorate Memorial Day to honor our veterans and all those who support them. Councilor Lemming.
Thank you, Council President. So folks may have noticed that I've been absent for the past 2 weeks from city council meetings. I was over in Virginia on reserve orders, and I was happy to come back to Medford's annual Memorial Day celebration in the Oak Grove Cemetery yesterday. And that is always one of my favorite events that I get to partake in this job, because going there and seeing the folks who show up, it's not only the veterans who come, but it is the descendants of the veterans. It is the people who have veterans in their families. A lower portion of the population these days tends to serve in the military because we don't have as many large-scale wars like World War II. But what I did see is, a guy came up to me and he just told me a story about how his uncle and father both left their welding jobs to join the Marines in World War II. And it mattered a lot to him. He just talked to me about it for a couple of minutes. And after I spoke, another woman came up to me and she said that her grandfather had been responsible for a lot of the, her father had been responsible for a lot of the statues in the Oak Grove Cemetery. He was a sculptor and he was also a veteran as well. And it was clear just how much that history meant to all the folks in Medford. And it's I had much better words for this yesterday, I feel like, but just speaking off the cuff about it, it's always an honor to partake in those events. And I just always love to have opportunities to remember the history of the country and the way that we send masses off, many of whom don't make it back. But it's also an honor to remember the accomplishments that we've had on those masses. America gained its independence on the lives of service members. It was on the lives of service members that we ended slavery. It was on those lives that we and many of our allied nations defeated the Axis powers during World War II, and they continue to serve. So I just like to take this opportunity to have this body do its own very small part in commemorating their lives, and like to thank everybody for listening to me. So thank you.
Councilor Lemming. Councilor Sang, then Councilor Lozaro.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Councilor Lemming for putting this on the agenda and to thank him for his really meaningful words yesterday. It's important that our residents see ourselves reflected in the things that we celebrate as a city, and the things that we recognize as a city. And so many Medford residents have given their lives and even put their lives on the line for our country, for the ideals that we hold together, for freedom, for justice for all, for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these really, I think, unifying values that as a country, I think we need to take a deep look at and embrace. And as our Veteran Service Director said yesterday in her wonderful remarks at the ceremony too, it's time to remember those who gave their life for their conscience, for serving a country with those ideals. And I found that very meaningful. So I wanted to thank you, Councilor Lemming, for putting this on the agenda, and thank our Veteran Services Department for all they do day in, day out for our residents.
Thank you. Councilor Lozaro.
Thank you. I also wanted to thank Councilor Lemming for bringing this up and for speaking yesterday. I was traveling this weekend, so I couldn't attend the ceremony, but I'm glad there's an opportunity to commemorate Memorial Day at this meeting. I was actually spending the weekend with an active duty member of the military. She's in the Army. She had a really tough childhood and is now an infectious disease PhD, serving in the Army and protecting our country right now. Something Councilor Lemming and I talked about this weekend was that the military in the United States provides a lot of people with some things you wouldn't necessarily expect, which is economic mobility and a pathway to improve your station in a way that is still challenging for a lot of people. And that is something that it provided for my grandfather when he served in World War II. And then because of the GI Bill, he was able to buy a triple decker in Worcester and raise a family there, even though he was a mailman for the rest of his life. So he was really a government worker the whole time. But nobody in my family was killed in action. But when I first met my husband, we've been married for 15 years. This was quite a while ago. One of his friends from college, they were orientation leaders together, and he was in the ROTC and immediately joined the military and was deployed to Afghanistan. And like a couple weeks after I met my husband, he went to this child, he was like 24, he was killed in Afghanistan, and he was at his funeral. And we talk about him a lot, especially around Memorial Day, and how hard that must have been for his family, but how dedicated he was to serving his country. And I think it's really important that we continue to remember him and remember the sacrifices that are made and what the sacrifices are made for. And I really appreciate Councilor Lemming bringing this forward and reminding us. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears. Thank you, Councilor Lemming, for bringing this forward, and thank you for representing the City Council at the Memorial Day event yesterday. I'm very grateful for holidays on the calendars like these, which give us a reason to collectively remember and celebrate the veterans in our lives and remember those who have passed away. I think it's evident most people have, some people have military experience. They are themselves veterans. Most people have a veteran in their family or amongst their circle of loved ones. And it strikes me that it's so important to have these opportunities to collectively reflect on what that means and to be prompted to think about what remembering means when we're remembering people that we love who have passed away because they're members of the armed forces, or just to try to reflect on what that means for those people who do have a veteran experience, something that we should do not just once a year, but all the time, as veterans can't help but do. For myself, my two grandfathers both served in World War II, and I know they had experiences so traumatic that they never spoke about them for the rest of their lives. I think about that so often. I think that Memorial Day is an important reminder of what we owe to veterans and people who have sacrificed for various reasons, what they continue to sacrifice, and the lived experiences, the memories that they don't reflect on once a year, they reflect on all the time. And I'm grateful to be in a city where we think about what that means for us for the other 364 days of the year and how we can uplift life in our community for people who come from that background and people who have served and sacrificed in every ways, and especially in this most total way. So thank you for putting this resolution forward. I am glad that we as a community are observing Memorial Day on the day. I'm glad that we talk about it the Tuesday after. I'm really grateful to have a Veteran Services Director who is doing such ambitious work on behalf of veterans in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Collins. Yes, thank you, Councilor Lemming, for putting this resolution forward and for representing the council. And thank you to our Veteran Services Office and the mayor and her team and all of the volunteers from Post 45 and everyone else who makes what happened yesterday. Kevin, the band, I could go on and on and on. That event doesn't happen without a lot of people. And, in my family, I have a cousin right now who's in the Air Force, but really when I think about the sacrifice that people make, in my family, those sacrifices were in the world wars, in World War I and World War II. And I think often on Memorial Day about Gettysburg Address. And I'm also very much drawn in this moment to why we asked people to make sacrifices and what were they sacrificing their lives for. And, Franklin Roosevelt's speech in 1940 before the war about building the arsenal of democracy to fight fascism stands with me in a very strong way. It has for a long time, but especially now, so many people gave their lives to fight fascism and far-right extremism and genocide and these things that are just inhuman. And we need to honor that memory. So thank you for putting this resolution on. On the motion of Councilor Lemming to approve, seconded by Councilor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan,
Yes.
Vice President Collins, Councilor Lozaro, Councilor Lemming, Councilor Scarpelli, Councilor Singh, President Bears.
Yes, 7 the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion passes. 25039, fiscal year 2026 budget submission submitted by Mayor Brianna Lindo Kern. May 22nd, 2025, to the Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council, fiscal year 26 budget submissions. Dear President Bears and the members of the City Council, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 32, I respectfully request and recommend that the City Council approve the proposed fiscal year 2026 general fund budget and water and sewer enterprise fund budget. The total submitted appropriation for all departments, including schools, for both the general fund and enterprise fund is $235,093,352. For the general fund, we have the assessing department, $644,812, legislative, $307,359, executive, $690,388, finance, $880,135, treasury, $780,059, law, $525,228, information technology, $360,257, city clerk, $408,686, elections, $385,466, licensing commission, $5,800, conservation commission, $7,500, planning development and sustainability, $917,163, community development board, $10,100. Appeals, Zoning Board of Appeals, $12,500. Historic District Commission, $5,000. Historical Commission, $35,000. Medford Community Media, $215,061. Hormel Commission, $5,400. Bicycle Commission, $1,500. Building Department, $1,057,806. Electrical Department, $752,094. Facilities Department, $2,098,129. Police Department, $15,177,397. Traffic Supervisors, $370,500. Traffic Commission, $30,500. Fire Department, $15,802,494. Civil Defense, $9,840. Parking Enforcement, $1,059,740. Recreation Department, $641,373. Medford Public Library, $2,231,939. Department of Public Works Highway Division, $13,949,161. Department of Public Works Cemetery Division, $1,071,342. Department of Public Works Parks Division, $964,765. Department of Public Works Engineering Division, $719,082. Department of Public Works Forestry Division, $624,615. Department of Health, $955,579. Council on Aging, $210,057. Department of Human Resources, $320,493. Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, $129,911. Department of Veterans Services, $448,716. Contractual agreements, $1,575,000. Workers' compensation insurance, $928,000. Health insurance, health and other insurance, $31,105,000. Pensions, $16,767,540. Bonds and interest, $5,060,178. Education, Medford Public Schools, $85,490,000 for a total general fund proposed budget of $205,748,665. And to meet these appropriations, the sum of $205,200,573.76 to be raised and appropriated from the fiscal year 2026 tax levy and other general revenues of the city, and that $105,300 be transferred from the sale of cemetery lots, $257,756.40 be transferred from the cemetery perpetual care funds, and $185,034.84 be transferred from casino mitigation funds. Further, we have the enterprise fund, water and sewer enterprise budget, $26,996,930. Water and sewer bonds and interests, $2,336,757. Further, that $29,333,687.00 be funded by anticipated revenue of the water and sewer enterprise fund. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Brianna Longo-Kern, Mayor. We'll hear from the mayor in just a moment, and just to give introduction to the process, we did hear from some of our departments earlier tonight, as well as the Medford Public Schools. We have had 6 preliminary budget meetings going over all of our departments. The council issued a series of recommendations to the mayor last month after our first preliminary budget meetings. And what will happen from here is we will take consideration of the budget, likely not finally voting at this meeting, but voting at a future meeting. There will be some other associated papers for budgeted transfers and other items. And once we complete our process, then the school committee will take back up their budget based on the allocation finally voted here by the city council. And with that, I'll introduce the mayor, Brianna Longo-Kurt.
Thank you, President Bears and City Council. Before I begin, I just want to let you know, Councilor Lemming, I got an email today about how wonderful your remarks were yesterday. So I figured I'd let you know that publicly. And thank you for all that came. Good evening, and thank you, President Bears and councilors, for allowing me some time to speak to you about the fiscal year 26 budget. Also, thank you for meeting with each department over the last several weeks to review each budget individually. Before I begin, I must take this opportunity to thank everybody who contributed to completing this budget and delivering it to your honorable body by the newly established deadline per the budget ordinance that you established. Compiling this comprehensive breakdown of the city's financial outlook took countless hours of preparation, debate, and insight from our department heads and our budget team, led by Finance Director Bob Dickinson, our former Assistant Finance Director and Budget Director Courtney Cardello, and my team in the Mayor's office, led by Chief of Staff Nina Nazarian, who is here with me tonight. I also want to give credit to our Communications Director, Steve Smearty, and Communications Specialist, Emma Tombly, for putting in so many hours of work on the nitty-gritty aspects of the budget book that tend to get overlooked. Their work is invaluable and will hopefully lead us to a 3rd Distinguished Budget Award from the Government Finance Officers Association, after having received the award again last year for our fiscal year 25 budget. It's a recognition we all, including this council, I'm sure, are extremely proud of. Though sadly, this is the last budget that Courtney works on with us. She is moving on to another position, but was gracious enough to stay on a limited basis to assist with completing the compilation of this budget and allow time for our new Assistant Finance Director to get acclimated to the role. Thank you, Courtney, for all your hard work. You will be missed. We enter fiscal year 26 in a somewhat familiar yet also much more secure position than previous budget cycles. Due to years of sound fiscal management coupled with newly injected revenue from the successful override votes last November, we're able to maintain our levels of service across our departments and also make targeted investments in key areas. That's not to say compiling and navigating this budget has been easy or without its hard decisions. It only means that for the first time in a while, we are not in need of right-sizing the budget with federal dollars or cash reserves. This is partially due to the support the community has shown for the 2 ballot questions voted on this past fall. Despite our community approving 2 proposed Proposition 2.5 ballot questions last fall, I want to make clear that we are not managing our finances as though we suddenly have a windfall and can spend as freely as some of our more affluent neighboring cities. Instead, we are still bound by our tax revenue and are making targeted investments that will have the most long-term impact without over-leveraging our operating budget. One key investment is in our engineering department, which is carrying an extremely high workload, with infrastructure maintenance increasing by roughly 400%. To help alleviate this burden, we have to hire a new position to the team that will assist with managing capital improvement projects on and under our streets and sidewalks. This is just the beginning of a multi-year plan to decrease the backlog of much-needed upgrades throughout the city. The upgrades will consist of water main upgrades in low-pressure areas, street and sidewalk work, lead line removals in our environmental justice designated areas, removal of sewer inflow and infiltration, and localized drainage improvement in flood-prone areas. There is hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work needed, so it is imperative we have a staff to manage it all next year and in the years to come. Our streets are highly traveled, both by cars and pedestrians, which is why improving safety measures for all modes of transportation is also extremely important. In collaboration with MassDOT, we've advanced plans to reconstruct high crash intersections along Main Street, specifically where it intersects with South Street, Mystic Valley Parkway, Route 16 ramps, and Mystic Avenue. This project will reduce vehicle speeds while also improving ADA compliant sidewalks and curb ramps, and have separate and buffered bike lanes, all in an effort to enhance accessibility and deliver a safer travel experience. In addition to the work done on the city side, the fiscal year 26 budget reflects a strategic investment in education. This funding focuses on maintaining staffing levels and evaluating needs across the backdrop of an extension to the instructional day. Additionally, we're addressing critical infrastructure needs. With the City Council's support, the school committee has advanced repairs for the Andrews and McGlynn schools, targeting malfunctioning HVAC systems, as well as security and IT upgrades throughout our entire district. These efforts are part of a broader initiative to ensure safe and conducive learning environments for our students. The school budget is almost always the most difficult one to develop, as there are several critical needs throughout our educational system, like the ones I just mentioned. But there are also significant challenges like the rise in costs that require not only hard decisions, but comprehensive financial planning by both the school administration, city council, school committee, and city hall. The Medford Public School fiscal year 26 budget reflects a significant increase of over $9.5 million supported by state aid, equating to an over 12.6% rise compared to fiscal year 25. This increase is primarily driven by heightened expenses in special education, particularly in transportation and tuition, which have substantial rate hikes. The district anticipates a $557,000 increase to transportation costs due to a new special education transportation contract. Both the schools and the city are also facing a significant rise in operational expenses. Healthcare costs for city employees are projected to increase by 10% again this year, potentially consuming revenue from new growth of approximately $2.5 million and forcing us to reevaluate investments in programming and services. This is not unique to Medford. Healthcare costs are rising across the country, but it certainly is a challenge that we must overcome in the upcoming fiscal year. Despite budget constraints, we are still making incredible progress across so many areas that are driving our growth. We are making significant investment in several core city systems, maintaining as much service as possible, and providing a sustainable roadmap for future big-ticket expenditures like a new Medford High School. We're continuing to make more substantial investments in our library and increasing its budget by nearly 5% with the support of state aid. Our continued commitment to prioritizing the needs of our library has allowed everyone in our community to gain more access to the resources and programs that our fabulous library offers. As I said, the workload at the feet of our team in the engineering department is immense, and that undoubtedly overlaps with the work being done by our staff in the Department of Public Works. We're increasing the DPW's budget by nearly $1.2 million, which will help keep up with increased costs and services, as well as give us more flexibility as we continue to address stump removal, tree pruning and repair, as well as updates to our aging water infrastructure and improvements in accessibility and pedestrian mobility in our squares and green spaces. In addition to investing in our public infrastructure, we're also been working to enhance and upgrade many of our public spaces for the community to utilize and enjoy. Gillis Park is one of many that opened last year. Car Park Phase 2 renovation is being worked on, with the dog park already open for the public to enjoy. We're wrapping up a project at Morrison Park to upgrade the fencing and dugouts. Logan Park is getting a facelift with a new pathway, natural play area, and a tree sculpture. I thank the team in our Office of Planning, Development, and Sustainability, along with the staff at Medford Recreation, for working so diligently on all these projects and many more. With so many wonderful upgrades to our public spaces, it's important that we ensure our team in recreation are properly equipped and staffed appropriately.
To ensure this, we are adding a part-time office manager to offset some of the duties from our full-time staff to allow them to focus on expanding our programming, including our inclusive programming and developing more accessible youth and young adult activities. This past year, we also unveiled our newly universal accessible schoolyard at the McGlynn School. The playground goes above Federal American with Disabilities Act accessibility standards and was designed and built with input from stakeholders well-versed in accessibility play structures. We're continuing to work towards goals laid out in our Climate Action and Adaptation Plan and are committed to making sustainable practices more accessible for our residents. To add to this endeavor, we have partnered with Garbage to Garden to launch a free municipal curbside composting program for eligible residents. Now, nearly a year into the launch, the program is widely accessible and convenient, making it easy for residents to participate in creating a greener, more sustainable future. To date, we have nearly 6,700 active participants enrolled and are well-positioned to hit our goal of 10,000 signups by the end of fiscal year '26. I'm grateful to our team in the Office of Prevention and Outreach and the Board of Health for once again receiving a municipal vulnerability preparedness grant of $750,000 to fund our exemplary Medford Connects program. This program was designed to help connect our most vulnerable residents to essential city resources and funds a wide variety of programs and events throughout the city, including our amazing multilingual and multicultural community engagement team. Our MVP project has been such a success that is the model that the state uses for other cities to repeat. Building off the work and guidance of our Medford Connects team, our nearly $1 million grant from the federal government to transform the Hegner Center into a municipal vulnerability preparedness site, as well as a facility for after-school programming, is moving forward full steam ahead. Our team is compiling the materials needed to submit to HUD and working with Congresswoman Clark's office to ensure this project is completed. While emergency preparedness is an essential sector of our work in prevention and outreach, there are many in our community who need resources and mental health supports right now. That's where our social worker and recovery team comes in and works in tandem with our connectors and liaisons to direct those in need with resources and programs that can get them the assistance they need to thrive. Our Electrify Medford program is up and running, making gains throughout the community, strengthening support specifically for underrepresented and underserved residents interested in decarbonizing their homes and vehicles through energy efficiency, solar, and electrification of heating, water heating, appliances, and electric vehicles. The team has been out walking the streets to raise awareness for the program and setting up coaching sessions to help people navigate their heating and cooling needs. As part of our commitment to residents, we are always looking for ways to expand diversity, equity, inclusion throughout our city and create an environment of belonging for the entire community. DEI has been working with human resources to update best practices for recruiting, interviewing, and hiring. Due to this work, the city has been able to recruit, hire, and retain highly qualified, diverse candidates for a variety of city positions. This team also hosts trainings and other professional development opportunities to ensure employees have the tools they need to uphold our values and mission, something that will be enhanced and continued through fiscal year '26. Our DEI office has also made a concerted effort to equip many events with ASL interpreters, enabling those in our community who use sign language to better engage with city services and programming. On the development side, our plan to revitalize and activate Medford Square near Clippership Drive has taken a major step forward. We have selected development company Transcom Real Estate as a partner in the city's project to transform 3 undeveloped city-owned lots behind City Hall into a combination of mixed-use retail and residential with ample parking for our seniors and Chevalier Theater. The project, as proposed, will combine the creation of market rate and affordable housing anchored with a 13,500 square foot grocery store, all in the context of a village square environment that prioritizes the pedestrian experience with beautiful public art and landscaping. This proposal dynamically addresses the city's multifaceted objectives outlined in the RFP, creating a vibrant new community hub in Medford Square that is consistent with the objectives in the city's comprehensive plan.
We will make further adjustments and improvements to this proposal, as well as negotiate a final land lease agreement over the next several months, and the final agreement will be presented to the City Council for consideration and approval. With the activation of the square underway, the next logical step is to expand our pedestrian paths along the Mystic River waterfront. The Clipper Ship Connector is opening this summer, according to the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and will create a path that connects over 10 miles of continuous greenways along the waterfront. In 2025, we continue to embrace public art as a means to enrich our community spaces, foster local identity, and engage residents across generations. A series of mural projects and public art initiatives have been launched throughout the city, reflecting Medford's commitment to creativity, inclusivity, and civic pride. In the past year, we've also seen our art scene flourish with over 2,500 cultural events, more than double the amount 6 years ago. In fiscal year 25, we saw the opening of one of the most anticipated restaurants and event spaces with the unveiling of the Great American Beer Hall. The 17,000 square foot space is already a destination for our region and has contributed heavily to expanding our commercial tax base. While focusing on our commercial development is critically important to both our growth and expanding our tax base, we are also deeply focusing on working to help solve the housing crisis that is afflicting not just Medford, but the greater Boston region, the Commonwealth, and the country. We are actively addressing housing affordability along with the council's help through a multifaceted strategy that combines funding mechanisms, the City Council zoning reforms, and development initiatives to expand access to affordable housing. Through successful negotiation, we gained leverage with our 40B developers to bring more community benefits to the planning process, like better pedestrian accessibility, reduction of potential traffic congestion, more open space, more access to public transportation, and more affordable housing units with a priority for Medford residents. We're making a concerted effort to care for and support our sizable veteran population through a number of comprehensive programs and projects. As we all know, housing is at a premium and especially challenging to afford for our veterans, many of whom rely on financial assistance from a host of government agencies. That's why I'm proud of the work being done by the City Council, the Veterans Service Office, for the successful passage of the Landlord Incentive Program. This initiative offers landlords up to $750 annually for renting to qualified Medford veterans. Administered in collaboration with the nonprofit Housing Families, the program seeks to reduce barriers veterans face in securing housing, such as credit challenges or income discrimination. By encouraging landlords to provide stable housing options, it's our hope that we're able to facilitate successful reintegration of veterans into civilian life in our community. And I'm sure you all know, this was a brief overview, I will stop soon, of all the work we all have done over the past year and the investments we've made that will help build on the vision we share and the work that we'll continue to do into fiscal year 26. Everything we do, of course, is not linked to one department or a handful of staff, but felt across our entire workforce and undoubtedly linked to all of the work you do here in the chamber. Our city is at its best when we collaborate and lean on one another for insight, advice, and constructive criticism. I'm proud of everything we've accomplished together, and I look forward to our continued partnership and teamwork. Thank you for allowing me the time. I know I'm always lengthy, but thank you for allowing me the time, and I'm here to, Nina Nazarian, Chief of Staff, and I are here to answer any questions you may have of myself.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have questions for the mayor on the budget submission? Councilor Lemming.
This was something that, full disclosure, I already brought up to Nina before the meeting, but we have been working with a number of parents on this exact issue. So I would like to have some public discussion on it.
Sure.
I'll also acknowledge that I was absent from the meeting that this council had with Kevin Bailey, but so I do very much appreciate the addition of the office manager position part-time for I believe $27,500 to the Medford Rec Department. The the concern I had, especially working with the parents who really do want to see after-school programs for their kids, and I'd also like to thank Counselor Scarpelli as well for his work on this. Is that the impression I got was that an additional full-time therapeutic recreation specialist would really help out in actually making these programs a reality, just in the sense that they did need that. It was my impression that Kevin really did need more staffing in order to do that, with the ambition being that they would end up founding a more regional program in collaboration with Malden and Somerville as well. And my fear is that although the office manager is a big addition because it takes a lot of work off of Kevin's hands, that they might need more staffing to make that a reality. So I'd just like to, I'd appreciate any conversation about that, as well as just future plans for where that, how those parents could be served in the future.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councilor. Let me thank you all for advocating for additional staffing and recreation. I know the city school committee is also working on enhancements in the school department. And I think I'm glad the parents did come speak to the council. I was lucky to be joined by Counselor Scarpelli and Chief of Staff Nina Nazarian with a few parents last week for me to better understand the needs, because I saw it as more need for more teen inclusive programming. And then I also see it as the age range that is aging out of high school. So, that 21, 22 to 25-year-olds that also need support and inclusive programming. So what we are doing is adding the office. We're doing a few things. First, I thank Somerville, Malden, and Medford for working together. You see these collaborations throughout the state, and they do work. So Medford, I know Kevin is big with aquatics. Danny has his specialties. And so being able to work with Medford, Somerville, and Malden, we should be able to have a full range of offerings for our young adults, 13 through 25 plus. We also are implementing that part-time office managers to free up the 3 full-time staff we do have that actually create and administer the programming. And I think that will alleviate a lot of the nitty-gritty work that is done on the computer hours and hours a day, so that they can offer and create ways to create more programming. I'm also hearing from the parents like yourselves that they do hope that, and I didn't really hear it till last week. I thought it was more rec, but I think they're looking for somebody in the city to kind of oversee all inclusive programming, like find out what's going on in the library, what's going on in rec, what's going on at our senior center. So there's one central person that's kind of overseeing it and make sure we're offering, needs from 0 to our seniors. So what I'm going to do is I sent an email to a whole list of staff members, our DEI office, our connectors program. We do have a connector. Her name's June. She's a connector for our seniors and persons with disabilities. So I'm going to kind of bring that team together and try to make sure that somebody takes the lead, and whether it's June or it's somebody in DEI, just to make sure we are have some oversight over every department and make sure we're offering as much as we possibly can, along with the partnership with Malden and Somerville. So I think we do have some staffing that we can tap into, some monthly coordinated meetings that aren't happening now between departments, and we can make sure we're accomplishing those goals for the parents that have reached out to all of us. So yes, I mean, you see the budget. We're taking in a few remaining positions in different ways, like 10% here or there for different positions in planning. But our budget, we're able to increase by 1.5 plus the new library position that we're using, work conveniently with Barbara and do a new children's librarian, but there really isn't room in the budget to add 5, 10, 15 positions. So we'll do our best to listen to all department heads, figure out what the needs are. And I think we're going to make great progress with that additional 0.5 and the current city staff and the partnership for all of our residents that need more inclusive programming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Collins.
Thank President Barris. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your presentation and just want to thank you and your staff, Chief of Staff Nazarian, Finance Director Bob Dickinson, and everybody else who I know worked
Thank you.
really hard to put this together. And thank you for the ongoing collaboration with the budget ordinance. It is really great to get a budget proposal with a really comfortable amount of time to continue to absorb and digest and discuss everything that goes along with it. So that's been a really wonderful evolution to get to participate in over the past few years. Thank you very much for your partnership on that.
Thank you for creating the budget ordinance. I think it's given us like almost a timeline. So it's helped us collaborate, but it's also been helpful on our side too.
Really
We've
happy to
come a
hear that.
long way on that.
We have, yes.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think it helps all of us when we have a
Mhm.
structure that we can mutually rely on.
Yep.
And predict. You know, and I think that's a great example of the collaboration that you were talking about in your closing remarks. I think that residents, though I think residents love good TV, but I think residents love more to see different branches of government collaborating. Good things happen when we collaborate. Even when it's hard, it's so much better than when we do. I think the creation of the stabilization funds last year and the passage of questions 7 and 8 are just wonderful evidence of that. And it's great to see those bearing fruit in this year's budget proposal. In regards to the budget proposal that you've introduced us to tonight, I think we're off to a really good start. This is an operating budget that does not significantly rely on one-time funding, which, you know, we've all been through the past few fiscal years together. And that is a really refreshing thing to respond to. That's a product of a lot of hard work by a lot of people in City Hall, on your team, and a lot of people on this council, and the hard work of everybody who campaigned for the overrides and the willingness of the majority of Medford voters to say yes to investing in our schools and our shared infrastructure. The passage of questions 7 and 8 directly allowed us to fund new positions within the DPW and to balance the school's budget, meaning that we do not have to balance this on forced district-wide personnel cuts, which I'm going to say a couple times this evening because I'm just so happy about it.
Great.
It's really great.
Yep.
And we have a little bit further to go on the school's budget, as we know from the presentation earlier, but it's great to see that number become more and more approachable.
Yep.
For me, as we collaboratively put ARPA and ESSER further and further into the rear view, I think all of us, we want to see Medford operate sustainably. We want to see it emerge from austerity budgeting. We want to fund our infrastructure and our services the way that residents deserve. We want to begin to make bolder and bolder strides on our capital needs and sustainably add capacity to our operating budgets at the same time. So given the hard work and the very genuine progress that we have made on stabilizing the operating budget in the last fiscal year, I think that now is a really important opportunity to emphasize the capital investments side. In the past several years, we have seen the city's free cash reserves amass, and we've done great work together in allocating that in really intentional, specific ways into our various stabilization funds. I think that now is the time to go even further, and we've talked about this. We've talked about this collaboratively with the financial task force, and I think that a really exciting and really important accompaniment to the passage of the fiscal 26 budget proposal this year will be a specific plan for allocating much of the remainder of our free cash reserves into our various stabilization accounts, of which we have several due to the passage of a couple more that we collaborated on last year. For myself as one counselor, I won't speak for other counselors, even though I know a lot of us feel the same way. It is a really happy occasion to get to translate that ever annoying and confusing term free cash into being able to say, we are investing this amount of money in this fund because we use it for this purpose, and be able to speak to the questions and the concerns that residents bring to all of us year round and say, we know, we hear you, it's been in the capital improvement plan, and we are making this allocation for that purpose. I know this is something that you and your team have been working hard on. Curious if you could speak a little bit more to how that is shaping up the timeline of that submission so that we can make sure these two things go hand in hand this year.
Sure. Yeah, we actually have a big whiteboard on the probably 25 to 30 papers we have to get before you in June between your two meetings. Sorry. But some of those papers are capital expenses. I think there's a project or two for the schools. I know there's the Nexus study that the councils in the Affordable Housing Trust has been asking for, so we're going to put that paper before you. We're also going to replenish the stabilization accounts, and I think what we'll end up seeing left on this, I'd like to call it a reserve fund, a rainy day emergency fund. We'll probably have about 10 to 12 left. So we will have a full updated free cash plan. My office did one right around the October timeframe, 2024. We'll have an updated chart for you along with all these papers before you in June.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. And we can talk about which ones are for the 10th and which ones are for the 24th.
Yes, we're going to work with
So
you. Yes.
we don't make you do them all in 2 weeks. Council Lozaro and then Councilor Singh.
My comment is a similar one. I just wanted to, again, thank you for the budget. Big, beautiful budget.
Oh, geez.
I'm feeling a little loopy already, and it's not even that late. I think it was the music. It was just really nice. The thing that I was really prioritizing when coming into this was public safety and hoping that we could allow the fire department, after kind of a wonky sort of community relations moment, to give a boost that would make everybody in the community, everybody in the fire department feel like we were reconnecting, we were moving forward in a way that was allowing the fire department to feel like they were able to be like really a cohesive, high morale, a department with a leader that's really forward thinking and clear-eyed about what needs to improve and how to do it. And sort of a first step in that direction was something that I talked with the chief about, which was the dive team. You and I talked about it. It's not in the budget, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to sort of talk about where there are avenues that we could, access funds to pay for that. And there's an estimate that the chief has that the dive team would cost about $120,000. It's not entirely one time, but it really it pays for dry suits, it pays for training. There are a few people that have started training on their own, fully started it with self-funded because there was an incident in Medford where a young man drowned and they couldn't, we didn't have folks in our fire department that had training. We didn't have the suits, we didn't have the boats, we didn't have any of the equipment. And then after that, because we had to call in teams from outside the city, after that, a few people took it upon themselves to start, a training program. So this estimate was for concluding the training, having a 12-person team, so that there would always be 3 people on a rotation available at all times in a firehouse, on staff.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be overtime. It would just be always 3 people available to be on call, and the equipment. So $120,000 kind of one time, but it would be, I think it's like 10 years down the line, you have to renew the suits, but it feels to me like that is something closer to one time than something that is in an operating budget on an ongoing basis. But I just wanted to ask you what you think would be a way to access funds for something like that.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for advocating, and thank you for trying to help me and the chief, build that relationship back. We've made really good gains. We've had some great promotions recently. So Chief Evans is off and running and doing a really good job. And I can tell the changes that are happening. So I appreciate you helping in any way you can as a counselor. I think what we're doing in June with the 25 papers or so is like my next step. And then I think I mentioned to a few of you that there's probably, every other department is coming at us to work on this capital improvement. We have $2 million in requests to be spent from the DPW. So what we're going to do, starting probably end of June into July, is figuring out all those requests, including that one, because we're taking it seriously, and not update fully our capital improvement plan. We have the Collins Center come and do that usually biannually, but we have to see where we're at, see where what we have in the stabilization accounts, and make sure we're providing our departments with what they need. And that's included in my list. It's on my desk. I get free cash requests. I have papers for June, and then my July and August work. So I kind of take things in stages because between my office and what all the work City Council's doing, I think we all have very, very full plates. So we're trying to take it one step at a time. But I'm glad we had that conversation, and that's on my radar. So.
Great, thank you. Counselor Singh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
for coming and presenting this budget and being so thorough in your comments. I, appreciate that crafting a budget is always tough. It requires making tough choices and saying yes and no to certain projects. I'm grateful, especially to the voters, but I'm grateful in general that this year we're in a better position than the previous years. Certainly much smoother this year in my memory compared to previous years. I appreciate that we're truly making some historic progress, especially in the schools, but including investments in DPW and recovering what we've lost over decades of austerity, and making progress on that. Now, there's still a long way to go, and I think residents recognize that as well. We, as a city council, through the Resident Services and Public Engagement Committee, put out a public feedback form with regards to what people were looking for from this budget, and through just the whole budget crafting process, we've received a lot of feedback. A lot of it is about infrastructure and about improving roads, improving road safety for cyclists and pedestrians as well. And I think that's why in our city council budget recommendations, we included funding or requests for funding for an additional traffic engineer, for staff positions, for restriping, adjusting signal timing, patching potholes, and shrinking the repair backlog, and also just more money to install and maintain road safety markings, signage, and bike-related equipment. I was wondering what progress we can expect to make this year with regards to those infrastructure and traffic safety improvements, what we might not be able to get this year, and how we can plan to budget for that going forward.
Yep, I think one of the biggest things is the assistant traffic engineer, and I may not have that title 100% perfectly, but I could be corrected. It was held by somebody over a year ago, and we have posted it twice. We just recently took that down, and we're going to adjust it again to try to fill that role. That would be somebody under Todd and Owen in the engineering department for traffic related matters, which are important to all of us. I know I've seen you on the walks, and I know we have, some trouble spots that DCR, MassDOT are helping us with, but we need the in-house staff for the rest of our roads and the safety improvements that need to be made. We're progressively doing work on our streets, but we could always use that second person. So Director Blake actually emailed me today to discuss the new job description. So we'll be meeting with him very soon. And I really hope to fill that position sometime over the summer. So that's, I hope that answered part of your question. I know the water, sewer, sidewalk, all the major projects, like I said in my message, 400%, we are up on the work we are doing, and the amount of engineers that we have cannot handle that amount of work. So that is the one position that it wasn't even should we put this position, and we had to be able to maintain the projects that we have this construction season and that we have planned for next construction season and the construction seasons after that. There's just between water and sewer work, lead line replacement, streets, sidewalks. I think there's another something I'm missing, but it's overwhelming. It's hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's overwhelming. And we are starting to message that. We have an $8 million. It's a loan, but hopefully part of that will be a grant through the MWRA. That $8 million will only touch 20% of our lead lines. So you're talking 50 million alone that needs to be spent on our lead lines to change them out throughout our entire community, and that takes personnel. And we need that engineer. So we are making those investments. We read all of your requests, and we knew that was one of them. Streets and sidewalks, we hear a lot. And on the management side, we're working every day, and I've got a meeting scheduled, just to make sure we're keeping up with See Click Fix, and we're keeping up with managing our staff, and so things are getting done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Obviously, I think infrastructure is always an ongoing conversation. So anything that, what goes through my mind is how can we plan long-term to get those positions that we need? And Commissioner McGivern was here earlier today talking about how there's still positions in DPW we need to fill. So I think a priority for this council now and going forward especially is about how can we fill those positions, because it's so important to get the people in the office.
Yep.
I don't want to steal the thunder from Councillor Callahan. I know she's been working on a volunteer tree planting program as well.
Yep.
And I was wondering what capacity we might have in this budget to get that off the ground.
I did meet with Councillor Callahan. It's been a little bit over a month, and I loved her idea. So I think that too is on my list for capital. I think whatever additional money, we want to meet our tree goals, and now without being able to invest ARPA funds into those additional trees that we need to plant, we've been doing consistently over 200 a year the last several years. I want to keep to that. So I would hope to have something before you over the summer for to meet our tree goals.
Thank you. We also talked at our first committee of the whole meeting about updating our financial software because we don't necessarily, the system that Medford uses is really archaic, and it's hard for people coming to Medford to work to use the system. It's also slowing down payments to workers, and especially when we do retro, and that affects morale as well. I was wondering what we might be able to see in the upcoming year about getting us to a place where we maybe look at new options for software. I know Director Dickinson's kind of looked at options. It's a little pricey, but what can we expect in terms of long-term planning for something like that?
Yeah, I think unfortunately that was part of our free cash planning when we released that in October, and unfortunately I think the money is the least of our worries, especially if the council wants to invest in it through a stabilization account or free cash. I think it's the staffing to implement something that takes 2+ years. I'm not sure we have the capability to do everything that our finance team is doing and have somebody oversee that project currently. So next step would probably be to explore, and we've talked about it, to explore whether it's a consultant or somebody to come on part-time to just fully manage implementing and changing over to Munis. It's an endeavor that I know, one or two cities that have done it, and they just say how difficult it is, but I do know we need to get there.
Got it. That's a helpful answer. I think residents have also been asking about protections for immigrants, especially at this time. And we have our non-cooperation policy, but I know members of city staff are making various efforts to protect residents and inform residents of what they're able to do. I was wondering what you could speak to in this budget about protecting our immigrant neighbors.
Sure. Yes. I mean, that's top priority, especially what we've been seeing on the federal level. And we've been doing it. Are we screaming at the rooftops about it? No, but that's the connectors and liaisons. We have 12 people that speak a second language that are out in our community weekly, meeting with residents from all over every neighborhood, our housing authorities, our senior center. They're out hosting events, and we are trying to build the trust. So if people have questions or concerns, we are giving them the right answers. We are passing out Know Your Rights cards. We also are having events. We had an immigration attorney speak last week. We had also had an event for business owners, so they know how to protect their staffs and themselves. So this stuff is happening. I also have a meeting with the Attorney General's office. We meet bi-weekly with the mayors and the Attorney General's staff, but I also have a meeting just set up just with myself and their two attorneys. They actually booked it with me because I brought up, how do I educate myself in knowing what we can and cannot do as a city, what we should and shouldn't say. And it would be really great to be able to provide the council and myself information on what can and can't be done, because we want to do everything we can. I know we're bound by certain federal laws, but we want to do, we have a welcoming ordinance. I think everybody knows that we want to protect our innocent immigrant residents, and we have to do it.
Thank you. And my last question, I promise.
Yep.
You mentioned the Hagner Center for after-school childcare. Obviously a very important issue in our community, a really difficult one too, because it's not just about spending money, it's also about getting the space and
Yep.
sorting out all the details. I was wondering, after the Hagner Center, what can we do? Because as helpful as that's going to be, it won't solve all the childcare problems.
Sure.
And it's a regional problem as well. But I was wondering, after that, what next steps are there as a city? What groundwork is being laid?
Sure. Yes, I can actually, myself, or I could have Dr. Galusi, Superintendent of Schools, send the presentation that we were given by Dr. Galusi, not yesterday, a week ago, Monday. So she did a full presentation on all the work that her team, including Megan Fidler-Carey, and I know one or two school committee members have been highly involved in, and they have a plan in place to increase after-school programming within our schools. So it was very exciting to hear. There was a whole host of residents that, were here to advocate, and they really just came up to the podium and said, thank you. So Dr. Galusi is taking that issue along with the school committee, especially several members that are talking to a number of parents all the time. She's taking that issue as one of the biggest issues to solve, which I'm super excited about, because I've been, been asking, can we just increase each school by 10 students a year? Can we set goals? And she has a plan to increase it quite a bit. I'm very excited about it.
Thank
So
you.
we can send you that presentation, because there's so much going on, and everybody's trying to solve every problem here in the city between the school committee, school department, city, and the council. So we can get that to you.
Awesome. That'd be super helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the council for entertaining my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Callahan.
Thank you so much. And first, I just want to apologize for not being there in person. I am feeling pretty under the weather. And in fact, I think I will probably drop off after this budget vote. But I also wanted to thank Councillor Tsang for mentioning the volunteer tree planting project, and just give a tiny little update so that people understand, and then ask one question of the mayor as well. That the volunteer tree planting project is full steam ahead. I have a team of dedicated volunteers who are working on it. We anticipate having our first pilot planting happen this fall. And we are working with Trees Medford and, beginning to talk to folks in the administration. So I believe that project is going to move forward. And Madam Mayor, I know that you had suggested when we met that the trees themselves, which is a relatively small part of the cost of planting trees, might come out of free cash when that happens. And I just wanted to see if that was still the plan.
Yes, that's what I mentioned. I think when Councillor Sang asked the question, that is also on my list of free cash requests, which we will be going through probably end of June into July. So between the 25 papers we have to put before you in June that are kind of all we can handle right now, we're going to continue to work through all the capital requests, all the requests in for funding, because there's something coming in from almost every department. We obviously need to make sure we're budgeting correctly and doing things in the proper years. But trees has been a huge goal of mine as well. So I thank you for taking this on. And I do plan on putting a paper before you, whether that's in June or July, to make sure we are reaching our tree planting goals.
Wonderful. I really appreciate that. And I'm also very, very excited to see the free cash and stabilization fund plans later this summer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Feel better.
Thank you. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, President Beers. Madam Mayor, I appreciate you here presenting to us, but I'm going to shift in a different direction. I think that there's still a lot of pain in this community, and a lot has to go back from the beginning of the process of the override and how we got to this process and how people didn't feel like they were being listened to or being part of the solution and get involved. When you talk to the rank and file across the community, across all of our departments, you hear concerns that maybe what was mentioned in the schools, really, it's not hitting the schools. They don't see much of a difference. When you see the streets and sidewalks, you don't see what was said. I believe you said $500,000 would really fix the pothole and sidewalk solutions. And
It would
we're
help.
seeing-
It would help.
It's not. So as we're moving forward, you're seeing these issues that have come up, and we talk about funding issues and concerns. Something I've been bringing forward for years now, the cost of legal fees, and seeing what's happening with our unions and the battles that are happening with lawsuits and arbitrations and hearings, and not truly understanding and seeing the funding where our city's funds are being spent when you look at those situations. But I think the biggest piece is that I find alarming, and it's great to hear that in glowing reports, but when you see and hear our residents really feel like they're not being listened to, I think it's important. Whether it's the seniors talking about parking, I know you mentioned at the senior center, and not feeling heard when it's with the new development that's coming in, or whether it's the override questions that our residents were concerned about, preparing them to take on such a hit when it came for increased taxes, or with the charter questions that this council put forth and made some drastic changes to get it just put forth to the state, or even now, I'm sure you're hearing with the concerns with the process and how we're working with the zoning, and how people are scared that we're changing what Medford looks like. So I think that there's a lot going on that I don't like. I've asked this council to vote on a state audit to come in, that this council will vote, just to look at the processes of free cash and see what we were last year, and then meeting with the State Auditors Association and understanding the process through these professionals, and understanding that a $9 to $11 million free cash safety net for the city of Medford to maintain your bond rating and have enough money with the size and the budget that we have of our community, that would be sustainable. And then you see $28 million of free cash. And now we're talking about all these different pockets that we're going to be pooling, taking money out of, where free cash is budgeted money that this council voted on your request to move initiatives forward. And we see time after time this huge surplus in free cash. And maybe it'll end, but we look at what's going on now. You're seeing undermanned fire department. You're seeing undermanned funded DPW. You still have questions in the school department. You still have questions with streets and sidewalks. There are so many concerns that are happening. And I know I'm the odd duck here bringing these concerns up, but these are concerns that we should look at and really reevaluate and understand that someone needs to be listening to the residents of the city, because this council's not doing it. And it falls on our mayor and our leader to do that. So I'm not too happy. There's too many gaps and too many concerns that haven't been answered to me when it comes to the budget. And I won't be supporting the budget, shockingly, I'm sure. But I just think that there are way too many people that aren't being listened to. And I know the override was a huge success for some, but it was a very close vote, and it really divided the community more than you think. And a lot of people, mostly our most vulnerable people in our community, are feeling that pain today. And they don't hear any resolutions, they don't see any resolve, they don't see any assistance to support them as they're making very difficult decisions in their lives today. So, again, I apologize that like my fellow colleagues, I'm not throwing roses at your feet and saying how wonderful this is, but, you know, my colleagues, find it very, very difficult when you don't line up with what their philosophy or their views are. And, to me, I think sometimes things need to be said, even though it doesn't fit the narrative of 7. So, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Councilor Brazzi. I just want to say one thing. I, for one, don't think the mayor lines up with my ideology and views all that much, but you know, we can still work together.
We do our best. Yeah, we do our best. I guess I can address a few things. I mean, I have to stick up for the school override money. We just had Member Graham and Member Rousseau negotiate the teacher contract. So I think that's 2.5 million to extend the school day per year, and they've done their job. And being part of the school committee, I know very well that every dollar that we've spent on this override money has gone to exactly what we said it would go to. I know there's people that are not happy with the override. I know there's people that can't afford it. I understand that, and I know who you're speaking for and who you're hearing from. But from a standpoint of where it's being spent, I can assure you it's being spent where we said it was going to be spent, and it is positively affecting our students and our faculty. With regards to the DPW monies, we went through a process of that. It was 500,000. We needed more staffing. We had to do through the CBA, we had to do internal postings first. I believe just recently we have those 3 new crew members, and that's just recently. I never said that was going to fully fix our streets and sidewalks. It's not going to, but to have another crew and have 2 crews out at the same time, especially around the time frame of now until July, until we get all the potholes fixed, until the next winter when they all get torn up again, it's just a constant issue. But our DPW is working hard, and if they're not, we are doing our best to manage. That's that. Okay, it's my. Yep. Okay. Free cash, we're at 23 million. We just spent 5 million to offset 5 million of the $30 million bond. We may use more depending on where we are next year to offset that bond, because the debt is going to be now 1.4 million. We're going to have to pay back in the fiscal year 27 budget alone. So we do, between the financial task force and our outside audit, we are making sure that we are doing right by the residents. And yes, that free cash will go down based on all the projects we have before us. Freedom Way alone, just to repave it and do sidewalks, soup to nuts, is probably going to be $15 million. We have to do the new roofs at the Roberts, Brooks, and Missatuck. That's going to be, I think, a few million each. I mean, and these are just projects that are continually coming up. We have to fix the heat in this building. We're going to have to use that stabilization account next over the summer. It needs to be fixed because people need to work. So there is just project after project in a city that's built when it was built, and facilities that were built when they were built, and now is finally paying attention over the last several years for facility maintenance. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of spending we need to do. Just like I said, if we're down to 23 and DPW just requested almost 2 million on machinery and equipment, that is just one department of the many that need equipment and capital expenses that we need to fund over the next several months. Our fire department, we're hiring 12. I know that you're aware, Chief Evans and the team must have told you. So we are going to be much better staffed. Thankfully, we're going through that process. I guess that's it for comments on those. But I hear you. Thank you.
Vice President Collins. I'm just going to go to Vice President Collins and I'll come back to you.
Thank you. I want to keep the focus of our discussion on the operating budget proposal, and I don't want to rehash disagreements that we've had a billion times. But since this has come up a couple times tonight, I do think it's important to correct the record. Nobody ever said that $500,000 to the DPW is going to wave a magic wand and fix every road and sidewalk in Medford. And we shouldn't pretend that that's what any department said department head said last year that's not the case. That money that the residents of Medford voted to invest in our DPW capacity is to bring more of the labor of continually fixing those roads and sidewalks in-house so we can have city employees doing the work of day in, day out, year in, year out, fixing our roads and sidewalks. It is misinformation to say that voters should have expected every road and sidewalk to be fixed because questions 7 and 8 were approved. That is a fact. That is what everybody has been saying since last summer. And I think that I think it is fine and good to have disagreements about what we are funding and how in the city, but I think that we're all better than having to rely on misinformation to do that. Part of the reason I am eager to see a formal free cash allocation plan, or that you put it in different terms, it means the same thing, to go along with our budget proposal this year is because there's a lot of right answers for what we should be investing in. You said right now we have 23 million, 5 million to pay off the bond. The Massachusetts Department of Revenue, I'm pretty sure the best practice is for 3 to 5% of a municipality's budget to be available as cash reserves, which would put us, that'll be right around 10 million for City of Medford.
Yep.
So by my arithmetic, that means if we commit 7 million more this cycle to the list of projects that we have that we know we need investing in, which total way more than $7 million, that will get us right back down to best practice, state best practice, and be able to say, all right, residents, we have an action plan for what we are investing in on what timetable. And that is good. That is just simply, you could say it's not good or bad. It's just what we do. It's what we should be doing. I just don't think that the conversation has to happen this way. And since I'm already picking a scab, I think it's useful to restate that the city is audited every single year by statute. And since I think we all are committed to the shared goal of fiscal prudence, I don't know why the residents of Medford would want us to spend money on an additional audit when we get one every single year as a matter of course. Thank you.
I thank you, Council Collins. I'm in a way flattered if it's about free cash, because as mayor, you can't win. You have too much free cash, then you're mismanaging funds. If we go low, we don't have enough. So we are doing our best. We have a lot in the pipeline. We're going to probably get that down, you're right, to about 12 million, replenish our stabilization accounts, and throughout the months ahead, do the capital needs that we need to do while trying to stay in balance and while not trying to overspend. So we are doing our best on the city side with the council support or requests as well on the projects that are needed throughout our community. So I do like the feedback either way. I appreciate it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilor Scarpelli.
Again, I think that it's uncomfortable because it doesn't fit the dialogue for some of my colleagues. So it's easy to say the narrative that suits them. So, but again, they can go back and revisit all their Reddit sites and the comments they've made that said that $500,000 would fix their roads. So we can go on in that. So the other piece that
The assessment says we need 200 million. Our assessment, we need over 200 million to fix our roads and sidewalks.
And we've been saying that for 5 years.
So we use
It's on, it's
the
posted.
assessor and finance director.
No,
they were
the
involved with that?
assessment.
The pavement management plan.
Oh, I know. No, I know that. But what I'm saying is the assessor and finance director, they weren't involved in the original override process. Were they involved in assessing the roads and sidewalks and stuff? Was that part of it? Because that's what I'm a little confused. So I don't know. Maybe it's late. I look at the different dialogue that's being said with the requests to the audit. Maybe my colleagues, they tune me out. They don't listen, but the audit that's requested, the ones that we pay for every year as a city because it's mandated, that lines up as the audit. When I spoke with the auditors, state auditors department, they explained that the lineup of what we do here is the audit of the money we spend, $10, we spend $10. The audit that we're requesting is saying, why are we not spending that money correctly? Why is it that every year we have an abundance in free cash? So it doesn't fit their dialogue, so I understand that it's an issue. But when we talk about the free cash and the capital needs that we need, that's usually done through capital improvement plan. That's usually done as a process where we work together in finding out these big projects. When you talk about Freedom Way, that shouldn't be done as an emergency basis. This didn't happen overnight. That's a capital project. That's a capital plan put in place by our office.
We've been working on it.
No, I understand that, but when you respond by saying, well, we're using that free cash to pay for that bond, well, that's not used correctly. That money isn't used correctly. So again, we could keep beating this up, but this is my opinion that I'm sharing with you, that residents are sharing with me because they seem that no one is listening. So thank you again.
Thank you. I mean, just for one person, and maybe we're just using different words. When we talk about how did we spend the money and did it go to the places we said it went? We're doing that every year, and that's what the audit is, right?
Yes.
When we talk about how should the city spend money, where should money be spent? Well, we have a conversation about that every 2 years, and we have it every year. It's called the city budget, and we have it every 2 years. It's called an election. I mean, that's different, you know? If people disagree with how the mayor's making decisions about, and I disagree with you often, and all of us do, how to spend money, then you have to put someone else in the office to make different decisions. I mean, that's just say that's an audit. I just think we're using different words to talk about what decision-making is about. So that's just my opinion. And I appreciate that we are a little more clear on the differences of what we're talking about now. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or the chief of staff?
No, just thank you for your time, President Bears and Vice President Collins and the City Council. We appreciate you allowing us to present and answer questions.
Thank you.
And I think maybe June 10th, but you'll let us know. We have a few things to get you before then, and hope that you vote in favor of this budget.
Well, we're going to go to any public participation. Well, first I need a motion. Is there a motion on the floor? Vice President Collins.
I will motion to table the paper to June 10th.
On the motion of Vice President Collins to table the paper to June 10th, seconded by Councilor Sang. Is there any further discussion by members of the council? Seeing none, is there any discussion by members of the public, either in person or on Zoom, about the city budget proposal for fiscal year 2026? You can come to the podium in person or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing no further discussion on the motion of Vice President Collins to table the budget to June 10th, seconded by Councilor Sang. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan.
Actually, it looks like we've lost Councilor Callahan, so all those in favor? Opposed, motion passes.
Councilor Scarpelli opposed.
Sure. Okay. So the budget will be tabled to June 10th, but we'll pick it up for further discussion. In the regular order of business, records, the records of the meeting of May 13th, 2025 were passed to Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Scarpelli, how did you find those records? On the motion of Councilor Scarpelli to approve the records, seconded by Vice President Collins. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Reports of committees, 24033 offered by Vice President Collins. Planning and Permitting Committee, May 14th, 2025.
Thank you, President Bears. At this most recent meeting of the Planning and Permitting Committee, for the first time, we reviewed what we need to find a better term for, the quote-unquote other corridors proposal. This is a proposal to apply a corridor zoning framework to several of the other corridors throughout the city, notably High Street from West Medford to the Arlington border, parts of Boston Avenue, though notably not the parts that are going to be included in the Tufts institutional zone, Harvard Avenue, Main Street, and the Broadway corridor district to align it with Somerville Broadway district zoning. We also talked about the neighborhood commercial nodes topic for the first time. We are going to be picking up both of these topics, the other corridors and the neighborhood commercial nodes, at the Planning and Permitting Committee meeting tomorrow night, 6 p.m. in the chambers and on Zoom as usual. Motion to approve.
On the motion of Counselor Collins to approve the committee report, seconded by Counselor Lazaro, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. 25069 offered by Counselor Callahan, Public Works and Facilities Committee, May 20th, 2025, report to follow. This was a meeting on the Chevalier Theater. Is there a motion on the floor? On the motion approved by Counselor Singh, seconded by?
Second.
Vice President Collins. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. 25039 offered by President Bears, Committee of the Whole, May 20th, 2025, report to follow. This was one of our preliminary budget meetings. We discussed the proposed budgets for several departments. Is there a motion? On the motion to approve by Counselor Singh, seconded by Counselor Lazaro. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. 25039 offered by President Bears, Committee of the Whole, May 21st, 2025, report to follow. This was again another preliminary budget meeting. We discussed the budgets for several departments. Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Counselor Collins, seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Hearings 25036, petition to amend the special permit 282 Mystic Avenue. This is the Clear Channel billboard, and they have once again asked for a continuance, so I'm going to reopen the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there a motion? On the motion to continue to our next regular meeting by Vice President Collins, seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Public hearing is closed until June 10th. Hearings, public hearings, 25044, public hearing, proposed amendments to the Medford zoning ordinance, chapter 94 residential districts. This is the residential districts proposal in the zoning updates project. The Community Development Board has not yet reported out recommendations to the council. So we need to open the public hearing because it was duly noticed and submitted. But, you know, we do not have the recommendations from the Community Development Board yet, and their next public hearing on the residential districts proposal will be on June 4th. So I'm declaring the public hearing open. Is there a motion? On the motion to continue to the June 10th regular meeting by Vice President Collins, seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. That hearing is continued to June 10th. Petitions, presentations, and similar papers. 25070, petition for a grant of location, National Grid, gas main, Washington Street, Washington Place, Cross Street. And we have the proponent, a representative proponent here to present on the grant of location. Diana, I think you have some of the worst luck with our long meetings of anyone, but welcome. Well, that's true. You did get to see the orchestra, and that's a rare gift. So, but you're always here on budget night for some reason. 25070, we have the grant of location. Let me just get it out in front of me. One second here. So we have 25070, petition for grant of location, National Grid, North Andover, Massachusetts, proposed installation of a new gas main in Washington Street, Washington Place, and Cross Street. You're hereby notified by order of the Medford City Council that the Medford City Council will hold a public hearing in the Howard F. Alden Chambers at Medford City Hall, 85 George B. Hassett Drive, and via Zoom on Tuesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. A link to be posted no later than Friday, May 23rd, 2025, on a petition by the Massachusetts Electrical Company, DBA National Grid, for permission to install a new gas main, including necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures located at Washington Street, Washington Place, and Cross Street. The engineering division recommends that this grant of location be approved with the following conditions. 1, the grant of location is limited to approximately 72 feet of 12-inch gas main as depicted on the plan. 2, before starting work, the contractor shall notify DigSafe and shall obtain all applicable permits from the engineering division. The project must obtain a trench permit pursuant to section 74141 of the city ordinances prior to commencing work. 3, no other utility structures, conduits, duct banks, pipes, or any other appurtenances are adversely impacted. National Grid shall ensure that all sewer, water, and drain lines are marked prior to any excavation. 4, the project site must be swept after installation or daily and shall be kept free of debris for the duration of the installation. 5, at least 72 hours prior to the start of the project, National Grid must coordinate abutter communications with the Director of Communications and submit any required information that may be requested to effectively inform the public. Approved, City Engineer. So with that, we'll hear a presentation from the proponent, and then I will open the public hearing. And we also have the engineer on Zoom if he would like to add anything after we hear from the proponent. So go ahead.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Diana Cuddy. I'm with National Grid, 170 Data Drive, Waltham, Massachusetts. And I'm here tonight to request a grant location for approximately 80 feet of 12-inch plastic gas main to be installed at the end of Washington Street crossing Cross Street.
Great. Engineer Wartella, do you have anything you'd like to add? I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, thank you. I have nothing to add, just the recommendations that I put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will open the public hearing to anyone. Well, actually, do councilors have any questions? Councilor Lemming.
Yeah, I live there. How noisy is it going to be?
It's a short section of
Okay.
New Main, but there will be some replacement work. It's connecting two separate systems to add a safety feature and redundancy to the overall system.
Okay, great.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Your neighborhood's getting safer. All right, well, if the councilors don't have any other questions, I will open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. If there's anyone who'd like to speak in favor, in opposition, or otherwise on the project. If you want to go first, Diana, just.
I'm in favor of this project.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone else, either in person or on Zoom, who would like to speak in the public hearing on this project? You can either come to the podium in person or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion? Councilor Scarpelli has made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Zaro, and that would be approved with the conditions. Approved with the conditions as defined by the city engineer. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan is absent. Vice President Collins. Yes. Councilor Lozaro. Yes. Councilor Lemming. Yes. Councilor Scarpelli. Yes. Councilor Singh. Yes. President Bears.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Great,
Have
well, we
a
got
great-
one more, right?
Oh, I don't. That's electric.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you and have a great evening.
Great. 25071, petition for a grant of location, National Grid, 401 Boston Avenue. We have here petition for grant of location, National Grid, North Andover, Massachusetts, proposed relocation of 5 poles near 401 Boston Avenue. We're hereby notified that by order of the Medford City Council, the Medford City Council will hold a public hearing in the Howard F. Alden Chambers at Medford City Hall, 85 George P. Hassett Drive, Medford, and via Zoom on Tuesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. A link to be posted no later than Friday, May 23rd, 2025, on a petition by the Massachusetts Electrical Company, DBA National Grid, for permission to relocate 5 existing poles at 401 Boston Ave. The following 5 poles are referred to in plan number JO-3106167, 401 Boston Ave, to relocate the 5 poles. The engineering division recommends this grant of location be approved with the following conditions. 1, the grant of location is limited to relocating 5 joint-owned utility poles located within the cement concrete sidewalk near 401 Boston Avenue and labeled P3317, P3318, P3319, P3320, and P3321 as depicted on the sketch. 2, before starting work, the contractor shall notify DigSafe and obtain all applicable permits from the engineering division. The project must obtain a public right-of-way occupancy, PRO permit pursuant to section 74141 of the city ordinances prior to commencing work. 3, no other utility structures, conduits, duct banks, pipes, or any other appurtenances are adversely impacted. National Grid shall ensure that all sewer, water, and drain lines are marked prior to any excavation. 4, placement of the joint-owned utility pole must provide at least 36-inch clearance of accessible travel path around the structure in accordance with ADA regulations and city standards. 5, temporary sidewalk restoration shall be done at the time of installation and in consultation with the engineering division per the requirements of an approved PRO permit. Any asphalt sidewalk damage during this work must be replaced in kind and cleanly cut along the edges. 6, the project site must be swept after installation or daily and shall be kept free of debris for the duration of the installation. 7, Boston Avenue is a heavily traveled roadway and requires a mandatory police detail to perform this work. The engineering division recommends the applicant consult with the Medford Police Department traffic sergeants prior to scheduling this work, since work hours may be restricted to outside normal operations. 8, at least 72 hours prior to the start of the project, National Grid must coordinate abutter communications with the Director of Communications and submit any required information that may be requested to effectively inform the public. Approved, Steve Randazzo, Superintendent of Wires. Approved, City Engineer Owen Wartella. Do we have a representative of National Grid here to speak to
He's
this project?
online. He's online. It's Antonio.
Great.
Oh, might be here.
Welcome. If there's anything you want to add to talk about the project, and thanks for being here through our meeting.
You said anything to add?
Yeah, just if you want to describe the project, and if you could just speak into the microphone, thank you, and provide your name and address.
Cam Hansel, National Grid. This job is basically just to move these 5 poles to the other side of Boston Ave because Tufts will be building new dorms and they will be too close to where the existing electric lines are.
Great. We do have the engineer here. If you have anything you want to add, Owen, you should be able to unmute.
No, this is basically for the construction purposes so that they can provide truck access to their site. So they will permanently remove and relocate the poles across the site. And that's it.
Great. I'll go to Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I think that's, we know the answer, but question, when you say shared, it's not a double pole, it's one pole shared by multiple entities, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how long does the project's gonna last, do you know?
That I don't know.
I have information on that. Basically, their project, National Grid's project, will be completed within a week of approval, or a couple weeks of approval, maybe days. The dormitory project, will last through September of 2027.
I appreciate that. My only question is the residents that will be impacted by the construction. Just making sure. I know we have 72 hours of notification, and is that just done by, just the butters, or could we get something more extensive?
No, this is just the poles. This is just the joint poles. We're not talking about the dormitory. We're not talking about the building. This is just them relocating your utility pole. They're going to dig a hole and they're going to put a new pole in and then rehang some wires. So the disturbance for a pole relocation is very minimal to abutters.
So the sidewalks won't be closed, driveways won't be impacted?
They currently have both sidewalks open. And it should be relocated within a day. So this is like a day's worth of work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Thank you, Engineer Wartella. Are there any other questions by members of the council? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open to anyone who would like to speak in favor, in opposition, or otherwise register a comment of any kind on this project. If you would like to comment, register your support. National Grid support.
National Grid supports.
Thank you. I see two folks here. I'll recognize Rocco DeRico. Rocco, just your name and address for the record, and if you could provide your comment.
Thank you, President Bear. Rocco DeRico, 14 Capon Street, Medford, Tufts University, Office of Government and Community Relations. Appreciate the council taking this up. As the city engineer explained, this is part of our dormitory project, which will add 664 on-campus beds for juniors and seniors. The other benefit of this project, aside from allowing us to proceed with the construction, is it's going to allow for new trees on both sides of Boston Avenue, as well as streetscape improvements and bike lanes on both sides of Boston Avenue. To answer Councilor Scarpelli's question, on this side of Boston Ave, there are no driveways, and the abutter is the MBTA train tracks. So this should not have an impact on the neighbors. But nonetheless, we are meeting with the neighbors every month to go through construction concerns, answer their questions, and then we also send a newsletter out to our neighbors in the middle of the month to communicate further construction news. So we'll continue to do that as part of this particular project, which is just moving the poles, but also throughout the course of the larger project. So just here to voice my support for this grant of location. Appreciate the time on a long night.
Thank you. We'll go to Jeremy Martin. Jeremy, name and address for the record, and please register your comment on this grant of location.
Thanks, President Bears. Jeremy Martin, 65 Burgett Ave. I'm here as a resident of the Hillside neighborhood to speak in favor of the petition. The relocation of this equipment, as Rocco describes, helps to facilitate the improvements that are sorely needed along Boston Avenue in order to keep pace with the changes happening in our neighborhood. I appreciate Tufts' commitment that they've made to our community to help improve Boston Avenue, and I hope that that is matched with enthusiastic investment and action by the city as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Is there any further comment on this item? Seeing none, I'm declaring this public hearing closed. On the motion of Councilor Scarpelli to approve with the conditions of the city engineer, seconded by Councilor Lazzaro. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan is absent. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazzaro. Councilor Lemming. Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. The motion passes. Thank you so much, and thanks for bearing with us. Fun way to spend a Tuesday night. 25-0 motions, orders, and resolutions. 25-075 offered by Councilor Lemming. Whereas veterans are often in need of food, transportation, and heat expenses, and whereas the good people of Medford may like to contribute to this cause, and whereas Medford already has provisions for allowing voluntary donations to the police and fire department on our excise tax bills, now therefore be it resolved that by the Medford City Council that we adopt the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3F, which allows municipalities to add a section for voluntary donations on excise tax bills that will go towards a fund for in-need residents. Councilor Lemming.
Thank you. So this is another request from our Veteran Services Director, who I think is doing a wonderful job supporting veterans in this community. Essentially, she wants to add an option for residents to be able to donate, if they choose to, on their excise tax bills to a fund that would assist in need veterans. The requirement for doing so is that the City Council vote to adopt this particular section of Mass General Law. I think it's a very worthwhile initiative. I don't want to belabor the point too much after all of our fine words about the veteran community earlier in the night, and considering that we still have a lot to get to. But I think it's a very worthwhile resolution, and I'd motion to approve.
On the motion of Councilor Lemming to approve this adoption of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3F, seconded by Councilor Sang. Since it's an adoption of state law, Mr. Clerk, I'm going to call the roll.
Councilor Callahan is absent. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazzaro. Councilor Lemming. Councilor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, the motion passes. 25086, offered by Vice President Collins, proposed amendments to the Medford zoning ordinance, accessory dwelling units for referral to the Community Development Board. This was reported out of the Planning and Permitting Committee, and the procedural next step is for us to refer to the Community Development Board. Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears. Yes, to restate what you just said. People who have been paying attention to this process have heard me say this dozens of times before. Every zoning proposal or zoning amendment goes from the Planning and Permitting Committee, reported out. This body then statutorily must refer to the Community Development Board, where there are public hearings on the proposal, and that is then submitted back to this body for a vote with recommendations if the Community Development Board so chooses. So this is the stage where we refer this proposal to the Community Development Board. They will hold their public hearings. The Community Development Board this year has been great about taking the time that they need to ask the questions and get the comments and the context that they need to form their recommendations. I'm sure that they will do this on the accessory dwelling units proposed changes as well. For folks who would like to educate themselves about these proposed changes before the CDB public hearing dates, there is a lot of information available on medfordma.org/zoning. We have been discussing these proposed updates since March. We held a public Q&A earlier this month, and this update encompasses both updates that are required of us and other communities due to a recent change in state law, as well as some proposed changes that go that are outside the bounds of merely what is required to be in compliance with the state housing law. So with that, I motion to refer to the Community Development Board.
Thank you. On the motion of Councilor Collins to refer to Community Development Board, seconded by Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's come to my attention from multiple residents. I know that reaching out and very concerned about some of the processes and how the ADU proposal has been presented. One question was that the proposal went out in 4:30 and it wasn't written until 5:21. That was a concern that was brought to my attention by a resident, and then multiple residents who feel again that this process is being rushed and really that this council isn't hearing our residents. And when it is being heard, and we do have meetings, and zoning is put forth with some changes, that this council will revert back and eliminate those requests from residents. So I can't support this moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears. Thank you for that, Councilor Scarpelli. Appreciate the comments. I'll just go in reverse order. I do just want to take a little bit more time to explain what I said in introducing the zoning proposal. I do think it's important to know that part of what's being referred out in these proposed updates to the accessory dwelling units proposal is required of us by state law. There's parts of it that are not required by state law, but there are parts that very much are, where the city would be opened up to liability if we were to fail to be in compliance with the new state law. So I just want to make that clear to my colleagues and to residents who were not a part of the extensive public process in putting this proposal together. To your other point, and of course, we've discussed this before, and I think it's worth discussing. I know that there are some in the community who have not been in favor of some of the recent zoning proposals that we have made, or some of the recent votes that have gone forward on zoning proposals. Of course, every councilor's vote is their own. That being said, I think it is also, and we will never achieve 100% consensus in the community on anything. That is not a realistic standard to hold ourselves to. It's not the standard that we are holding ourselves to, but I do really appreciate every resident who has been a part of this process on these various proposals over the last year. It is a challenging topic, and I really welcome and appreciate the participation from residents, especially the residents who show up and say, I think you should change this and I'm not in favor, because that is challenging, and I really do appreciate that. But it is also true at the same time that we have responded to calls for more opportunities for public participation in this process by adding a whole other step to our zoning review timeline, one that is not typically followed. We have added a lot of public opportunities for public participation. We have added a whole web page about the zoning process. The Mass Municipal Association wrote an article about our communications and outreach efforts because it was so unique to them for us to be going to such great lengths to publicize and message the work that we are doing this term. And to your other point about this feeling of inevitability that the city council is just going to quote unquote reverse whatever the quote unquote community asks for. And of course, we shouldn't be speaking in monoliths here. The CDB refers back to recommendations to the city council if it so chooses. That has happened twice now, not just once. We approved Mystic Avenue corridor district zoning as well as Salem Street corridor district zoning. I don't think that it's fair or productive to pretend that a vote is going to go the same way every single time because the data doesn't bear that out. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, we adopted all of the CDB recommendations for Mystic Ave, Green Score, the phase 1 changes, and all but one CDB recommendation for the Salem Street Neighborhood Corridor District. On the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. 25087, offered by Councilor Collins, 2024 Community Control over Public Surveillance Annual Report. 1 second here. Be it resolved that the City Council discuss and improve the 2024 Community Control over Public Surveillance Annual Report pursuant to Section 50, Article 3, Community Control over Public Surveillance Ordinance. One question I have here before we get started, Vice President Collins, is this also going to constitute approval of the LPR use policy that is included here?
Sorry, can you say that again?
The license plate reader use policy was included in this packet from the parking department. Does approval of the annual report also constitute approval of the license plate reader policy? Okay. I might want us to take 2 votes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears, and thank you for flagging that. The Community Control over Public Surveillance Ordinance was passed by the City Council in, I believe, February, March of 2023. We have gone through this annual public report process one time before in April of 2024. We reviewed the annual reporting of the one city agency that was registered as having surveillance technology at that time, which was the Medford Police Department. That was a bit of an unusual public reporting. Sorry. That was a bit of an unusual annual public report in that the only surveillance technology known and used in the city at that time was body-worn cameras by the Medford Police Department, which also, per a negotiated contract carve-out in the ordinance, is not subject to the approval of a use policy, which all other surveillance technology in the city would be. Because, sorry, I should back up here. For people who don't know, the Community Control over Public Surveillance Ordinance is an ordinance passed in 2023 that sets up a structure for the City Council and residents of Medford to look together at surveillance technology that is approved to be used by any public entity in the city of Medford. So this doesn't regulate Ring cameras or Nest cameras. It's just surveillance technology that the city wants to use, and make sure that we have a public process for saying, what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the costs, what are we hoping to get out of this, and what are the potential risks that so that we can make sure we have that full conversation before the City Council takes a vote to approve a surveillance technology with a use policy or deny one or ask for modifications in order for the surveillance technology to be used. So last year we were just having a review of the use of body-worn cameras by the Medford Police Department. They hadn't been in effect for very long by that point, so it was a pretty short report. This time the reporting looks a little bit different because we have a full year of experience and data on the Medford Police Department's use of body-worn cameras. They went over this with us in a committee of the whole, a Public Health and Community Safety Committee a few weeks ago. And this is also the first time that our reporting includes use of surveillance technology by the Medford Parking Department. This surveillance technology, automatic license plate readers, was inadvertently already in use by the Medford Parking Department prior to their submission of an impact report and a use policy. However, in committee of the whole, we reviewed a draft impact report. We reviewed a draft use policy. The committee discussed it and reported it out, and we are looking at a use policy tonight that includes a couple of small modifications that the council requested to the license plate reader use policy. So the documents included in this, so one of the requirements of the city council per the Community Control Over Public Surveillance Ordinance is to hold these meetings annually to review the use of surveillance technology by city agencies, and then to compile in this report the findings, how many, it lists them out here, the number of requests for approval, the number of times the city council approved requests for surveillance technology, the number of times the city council requested modifications, the number of times that the city council declined to approve a surveillance technology use policy, and all annual surveillance reports and reporting that were submitted this year. So this compiles that. Again, this was a bit of another unusual year, but for a different reason, in that we did not receive any requests for a new use of a new surveillance technology. That would be, say, for example, if the parking department said, hey, there's this new hardware that we want to use, that we want to introduce, we're going to ask for permission before we use it. That is how the process should go. This was more of a approval of a pre-existing surveillance technology use. So the city council annual report compiles the impact report, or sorry, it compiles the Medford Police Department's annual reporting. It compiles the parking department's impact report and updated use policy. It also includes a public comment that was submitted on the annual report by the Medford Police Department. So this is a part of our public record now. That is one of the goals of the ordinance, is to maintain and add to a public record of surveillance technology in the city, both those submitted by the agencies that are using it and the city council's discussions and findings and takeaways from what we discussed with these departments about their use of surveillance technology. So with that, I would make a motion to approve the parking department's use policy for automatic license plate readers. I would also make a motion to approve the city council annual surveillance report, unless there is any questions or comments from my fellow councilors or members from the public.
On the motion to approve the B paper to approve the LPR policy, we'll take that first. Is there any further discussion on the approval of the license plate reader policy? Councilor Scarpelli.
I think that without having a conversation with the chief, I will not support these initiatives. So thank you.
Thank you. On the motion to approve the license plate reader report by Vice President Collins, seconded by Vice President Collins.
Sorry, I just want to be clear that the chief submitted the report that we're voting on.
Thank you. On the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. On the main paper to approve the annual surveillance report, is there a motion? Motion to approve by Vice President Collins, seconded by Council Azaro. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. 25088 offered by Council Azaro, resolution requiring monthly police chief report on ICE activity in Medford. Council Azaro.
Thank you. This is something that residents have requested. And earlier tonight, when we had representatives from the Medford Police Department here to talk about their budget, we spoke about this. For tonight, since Chief Buckley is not available, I would motion to table, and also because what Officer Covino mentioned is that they're still discussing and compiling what sort of information they may have access to, and I would like to give them a little bit of time. So I would motion to table this resolution.
On the motion to table by Council Lazaro, seconded by Councilor Sang. The motion is undebatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes and that is tabled. Communications from the mayor, 25085, appropriation of free cash, parking kiosk replacement, and soil remediation at 448 High Street. I neglected to mention this as part of the committee report. We did discuss this last Wednesday at our committee meeting, and we heard from our parking director and our city engineer on this. Councilor Collins. 1 second. Just so I read it into the record. Free cash, dear President Bears and city councilors, May 15th, 2025. I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approves following free cash appropriation in the amount of $150,859.89 on the following, 98 cents on the following. $92,859.98 for replacement of the remaining Flowbird parking kiosks to IPS parking kiosks, and $58,000 for the continuation of soil remediation services at 448 High Street. The balance of free cash before this vote is $22,311,303.11. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Longo Kern, Mayor. On the motion of Vice President Collins to approve the appropriation, seconded by Councilor Sang. Is there any further discussion? Seeing even the city engineer is shaking his head, so he's all set. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan is absent. Vice President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming. Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, the motion passes. 25090 offered by Mayor Brianna Longo Kern. Proposed wage adjustment for non-union personnel. Dear President Bears and members of the City Council, I respectfully request and recommend the City Council approve the following amendment to the revised ordinances, Chapter 66, entitled Personnel, Article 2, entitled Reserve, the city's classification and compensation plan, formerly included as Article 2, Section 66-31 through 66-40 by adopting the following changes. Non-union personnel effective July 1, 2025, increase the base salary of all non-union titles by 2%. Thank you for this kind attention to this matter. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Longo Kern, Mayor. Mr. Clerk, could you make Dr. Cushing and
Yes.
Director Crowley co-hosts of this meeting, please? Dr. Cushing is not on this paper, but the next paper. But Director Crowley's on this one, so I want to make sure that she can speak to the paper.
I am here, yes.
Thank you, Director Crowley. If you could make a presentation on this paper, if there's anything you'd like to add.
Thank you, President Beers, through you to the council. This is just a, as you can see, a color adjustment to go along with the adjustments that we have made throughout the city through our union contracts to bring our non-union employees up alongside those COLAs that are being given in July for our union representatives as well, our union employees, excuse me. So it's just to
Thank
bring
you.
them all in line.
Thank you, Director Crowley. Is there a motion? On the motion to approve by Vice President Collins, seconded by Councilor Sang. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just reiterate what I said earlier today. I will not support increasing non-union raises till our union contracts are ratified. Thank you.
Thank you. On the motion to approve for first reading by Councilor Collins, seconded by Councilor Sang. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion by members of the council, no hands on Zoom, no one in the chamber. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan is absent. Vice President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming. Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 5 to the affirmative, 1 in the negative, 1 absent. The motion passes, and this is ordained for first, or is approved for first reading. 25091 submitted by Mayor Brianna Longo Kern. Authorization of a 5-year contract for Rico USA copy machines and printers. Dear President Bears and members of the City Council, I respectfully request and recommend the City Council approve the following 5-year contract with Rico USA Inc. for the lease of copy machines and a print technology solution in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30B, Section 12, which requires City Council approval for a contract that exceeds 3 years. Please see the attached for an outline of the scope of the agreement for the school department. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Longo Kern, Mayor. And I will recognize Dr. Cushing, our Assistant Superintendent. of Operations and Innovation. Is that right? Did I get it right?
And enrichment.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add on this?
So I just want to make the committee, the council aware that through some negotiation, right now we pay about $185,000 a year for our copying over 57 devices. 55 of those are on one bulk contract and 2 are kind of on random contracts. We're going to increase by 1 machine to 58 total, bring them all under the same contract. And through some negotiations, we're going to reduce the annual costs down to $147,000. And by adding the paper cut solution, we hope to save another $10,000. So bring our annual costs from about $185,000 down to $138,000 or so, while increasing 1 machine, increasing the functionality. Really, in negotiating with many of our vendors, what I'm trying to do is drive as many dollars as possible towards student academics. So respectfully request that the council approves this 5-year lease, which we need to execute by June 1st.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Cushing. Is there any further discussion or questions by members of the council for Dr. Cushing? Seeing none, is there a motion? On the motion to approve by Vice President Collins, seconded by Councilor Singh. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Callahan is absent. Vice President Collins. Yes. Counselor Lozaro. Yes. Counselor Lemming. Yes. Counselor Scarpelli. Yes. Counselor Singh. Yes. President Bears.
Yes. 6 the affirmative, 1 absent. The motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Cushing. Move to public participation. Ann Driscoll let Councilor Singh know that she is not available. Is there a motion to postpone that paper to the next regular meeting? On the motion of Councilor Singh, seconded by Councilor Lazaro, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in public participation, either in person or on Zoom? Sure, give me 1 second to get the timer going. Name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
I attended tonight's session, not just because I'm super excited about lots of very cool budget stuff and a really dope concert by our middle schoolers, which is really cool to see. But mainly to support Councilor Lazaro's resolution that was unfortunately tabled, though I do understand the reasoning behind tabling it. However, with that said, I'm still going to make comments about it because I have a right to, and you have to listen to them. So enjoy. I do think that it could benefit from an amendment that make have Buckley or have the chief of police present that report in person. The issue that I think that would address, and that I observed in part during the earlier committee of the whole meeting, where the MPD came and gave a wonderful presentation, was that there clearly is a sort of a disconnect between the information that the MPD know or believe they know and what the residents of the city know. So that would go a long way to sort of bridging that gap, I think, just to have that regular in-person presentation so that he could actually also come here and receive feedback directly from residents of the city. Because without that, they're just going to continue to live in this thicker and thicker bubble of nonsense and spout some of the totally incorrect things that they were saying during today's committee of the whole meeting. So that's my one recommendation. And I do think that I do plead for urgency to provide more accountability from the MPD towards to the residents of the city, because at the end of the day, their job is to protect the residents of the city. That is their one job. And not to nitpick the mayor's speech earlier, but it isn't just to protect the so-called non-criminal citizens of the city. It's anyone, everyone here has rights, and no matter what their status is. And it's to protect everyone's rights, regardless of status, regardless if they are, even if they are criminals, they still need to be protected. Their rights need to be protected by the police, even as they're enforcing laws. So that's just going to continue shouting to the ether until something happens with this. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good to go to Zoom. I have Mr. Castellini on Zoom. Name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hello,
Hi, Andy. You have 3 minutes. Name and address for the record, please.
can you hear me? I have headphones on. I don't know
Yes,
if
we
you
can hear
me.
you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Beers. Thank you very much. I hope you all had a good Memorial Day yesterday, and I want to thank the veterans for all they did to try to keep our democratic republic alive for 250 years almost. But I want to thank them. They had a lot of courage. I have a question. Did I hear this evening that we have a city solicitor again?
Yes, Mr. Castellini. Kevin Foley has been hired to serve as the city solicitor.
Great. Same office as usual?
The physical office, I guess it's the law department office on the 2nd floor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to comment on?
No, thanks.
Thank you so much, Andy. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment in public participation? Seeing no one at the podium and no hands on Zoom, is there a motion on the floor? On the motion to adjourn by Councilor Sang, seconded by Vice President Collins. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.